Scannell joins me now. So what are you looking for in these documents today? Always difficult to interpret, a lot of the details taken out, but what might we learn?
Well, Jim, I think what we're going to really look for in the Michael Flynn sentencing memo is, what his version of his cooperation is. Special counsel gave him a very supportive letter saying he's helping them on 3 criminal investigations. His early access, his early ability to cooperate was instrumental. They said he was providing firsthand information about Trump transition team members' contacts with Russians that they view as being all part of a substantial assistance effort by Flynn for the government. Now, Flynn, his lawyers are going to make the point that, this was a blip in what has been, the general's very admirable career, where he's been, a public servant for the U.S., serving in the military for decades. So they're really going to, push the point. Not only has he been cooperative, but also his human qualities and how he has, really been, a servant of the U.S. government for years. We may also see a little bit more information from the Manafort hearing today to see what his lawyers are going to say about the lies that Special Counsel Mueller's team has said Manafort committed, including lying about continued contacts with the White House administration during this year leading up to Manafort's trial, as well as his contacts with his former business associate, who the Special Counsel's office says has ties to Russian military intelligence. So we might learn a little bit more in court today about how Manafort's team is going to combat that. Are they really going to push back on these lies, which could lead to even more information coming out? Mueller's team said they're ready to prove point by point each and every one of these lies. Or will they ask the judge to let's move this forward to sentencing and have Manafort eat his lumps? That we should learn a little bit more about later today, Jim. Poppy.
We'll be watching. Kara Scannell, thanks very much. Joining us now is former federal prosecutor Stephen Bidak. He was also involved in the Whitewater investigation of the Clintons. A lot of relevant experience. Stephen, thanks for taking the time this morning.
Thanks for having me.
So, the fact is, even though we don't know a lot about the Mueller investigation, we do know a fair amount. We know the number of contacts between Russians and the Trump campaign right through the transition, many of them lied about. We know the nature of what the Russians were offering the Trump campaign, cooperation, synergy, they said, politically, offers of business cooperation. We know that there was interest expressed from the Trump campaign side. They took all these meetings, they never said no, never reported it to the FBI, and then repeatedly lied about it. You have that. What do you need from there to meet the threshold of a conspiracy?
Well, a conspiracy under the laws of the United States means that 2 or more people agree to violate the laws of the United States. There are various laws that apply to campaign finance, to election law, and things like that. So you would have to show that 2 people made an agreement. If the Russians tried to get to the election group of Donald Trump, and they didn't succeed, if they came in and somebody said, no, I don't want to talk to you, get away from me, that would not be collusion, that would not be a conspiracy. What you need to show is that the Russians made an effort and that someone accepted the agreement to make a problem with the elections and then committed what's called an overt act, which means that you have to do some act in furtherance of the conspiracy. So what we're looking for right now is an agreement from the campaign side to also engage in this collusion or this conspiracy, a criminal conspiracy, and an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy.
Let me ask you, as it pertains to that and what you just laid out, of all the filings that we are expecting to get this week, Kara just laid out some of them, which one are you watching most closely and why?
Well, they're all interesting in their own way. Flynn, very interesting because he was so highly placed and because the special counsel's office has said that he had particularly valuable cooperation. Interesting thing about Flynn, though, is typically a prosecutor will not sentence fully a cooperator prior to the end of his cooperation. So if Flynn is sentenced, gets no sentence, or a probationary sentence, then the prosecutor really has nothing over him. So he would not make a typical witness.
Right.
And so that's interesting in the sense that he has it. Manafort is interesting in 2 respects. One is it appears that he lied about a number of things. The special counsel is saying he lied about a number of things, but the special counsel is basically cutting him loose, saying to the court he breached his plea agreement, he's lied repeatedly, he's useful to us, so he can't be much of a witness. Cohen is interesting too because he is cooperating. The special counsel on one hand says he's cooperating in a very fulsome way on the Russia investigation. The Southern District of New York saying he is not cooperating very well on his own conduct. So you get this dichotomy between the two of them, and he will have a significant sentence probably over his head after he's sentenced.
Yes.
And so
Stephen,
he may be the best witness going forward.
Let me ask you this, because the Cohen revelation, Cohen is the one so far that has directly implicated this president in a crime. Cohen has testified under oath that the president directed him to break campaign finance laws, allegedly. President, Republicans lining up now behind this argument. Well, Cohen's a liar, which is a fair argument. You can make that argument. But the Southern District of New York, it is pursuing these charges, which makes you assume that they would have more evidence to back that up. I mean, what is the key here? What would be the bar for that to be a crime, for the president to have directed this? Because I know part of it is about the timing of the payments. Was it relevant to the election? You know, an attempt to defraud and affect the voting public. Another bit is about the intent to cover up that behavior. From a lawyer's perspective, is calling Cohen a liar enough to defend the president here?
Well, no. And every defense attorney, myself included, calls every snitch a liar. I mean, that's the stock and trade of cross-examination. So that is what it is. But I think you have two issues that you have to watch with Cohen. One is an evidentiary issue. Can the Southern District of New York or any other federal prosecutor in any other district corroborate what he says? He said in his plea colloquy in front of the judge in count 7 and count 8, he said, "I'm guilty. I made these payments to these two women, and I did it in coordination and at the direction of individual one who was president of the United States, Donald Trump." So number one is, do you have corroboration beyond that? So that you just can't say it's my word against his, he's a liar, and that's hard to get beyond a reasonable doubt in that, which is what you need to make a criminal conviction. The evidentiary burden is also very important. For a federal election campaign violation, it has to be knowing and willful violation.
Right.
Willful meaning that the defendant must know and intend to break the law. So even if Cohen intended to break the law, you would still need individual one, the president, Donald Trump, to also intend to break the law. So you got this evidentiary side you got to satisfy, and you also have to have a witness who can say that in a believable, credible, corroborated way so that it gets beyond a reasonable doubt.
Right. Well, the attorney for the Southern District of New York, appointed by President Trump, apparently thinks he has a case there. Now, judge, jury might decide otherwise.
That's a fascinating point, Stephen. And then, of course, you have the whole John Edwards case and Rudy Giuliani bringing that up and what sort of precedent that sets as well. We'll have you back. We're out of time, but thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer heading to the White House next hour to meet with the president to be a fly on the wall, right, for that one. A partial government shutdown less than 2 weeks away if the two sides can't agree on funding for border security. Let's get to Phil Mattingly, who's on the Hill. So, confident something gets done today to keep the engine running and the government open?
Yeah, in short, no, but it's part of the process. Look, in talking to aides and officials who are involved on all sides of these negotiations, particularly those that are heading over to the White House today and the White House staff, one person equated it to kind of a boxing match right now, where this is a round and there are multiple rounds to go, but it's an important step, and it might be posturing, and they might come out of the White House with both sides still firmly entrenched on opposite sides of these talks. But this is something that needs to happen to get to an end game. The real question right now, guys, is what that end game will actually be. President Trump has made clear he wants $5 billion for his border wall. What Senator Chuck Schumer has said is the Senate, on a bipartisan manner, has agreed to $1.6 billion. That's as far as he's willing to go. Where House Democratic Leader Nancy Pelosi stands is she believes that they should just continue the current levels of funding through September of next year. Now, how do you bridge a $3.6 billion gap? That remains a very open question. There are off-ramps here. There are ways to get around this, punting this for 3 months, but at this point in time, someone is going to have to back down, and as we head into this meeting, I can tell you that at this moment, nobody is budging yet. We'll see if that shifts over the course of the next couple hours, guys.
We know you'll be watching. Phil Mattingly on the Hill, thanks very much. Still to come this hour, sources tell CNN that President Trump sees impeachment as, quote, a real possibility. All of this as the president is on the hunt, still, for a new chief of staff.
We also have details on a new climate change report released moments ago. This after a Trump advisor was laughed at during the world's biggest climate change conference for promoting fossil fuels.